Dear learners, welcome back to NPTEL online certification course on novel drug delivery systems. I am Dr. Satish Devanapelli, Assistant Professor at Department of Pharmaceutical Science and Technology, Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. In our novel drug delivery systems, we are learning scalability, regulatory aspects of drug delivery systems. In our previous session, we have discussed on the scalability or scalable technologies of novel drug delivery systems. So, we discussed what are the scale up techniques and the challenges, how to overcome the challenges of scalability issues, and further we discussed on the continuous processing manufacturing CPM. And then we discussed three different techniques of novel drug delivery systems. We have discussed the importance and the principle of microfluidics and applications also we have learned. And the second topic we discussed the high pressure homogenization and the principle and the design. We have discussed the application of the high pressure homogenization. And third, we discussed on the hot melt extrusion. There we understood the use as well as the scalable technique, and the last one application of the hot melt extrusion. So, today we are going to discuss the topic. So, the next this class and further class I will focus on the regulatory aspects of the novel drug delivery systems. We will read one by one. So, first of all we need to understand the role of regulatory body in pharmaceutical industry. So, now you can read the first line. Regulatory agencies and organizations play vital role to meet the requirements of legal procedures related to drug development process in a country. Now, try to understand this drug development. So, as we discussed, so here we have several stages. It is a systematic study. There we try to understand safety, efficacy of the drugs as well as the drug substances, nothing but drug products on human beings. So, it starts with the drug discovery, then it will enter into the preclinical, then clinical, then approval. So, yes, the regulatory body, it work on behalf of the public safety. So, they will take care of the responsibility of the approval, conducting of clinical trials, even import, export, sales and the distribution. So, now the everything related to drug, medical devices, cosmetics and the biological products are regulated by the regulatory body. Now, the main goal of the regulatory body is that to maintain the quality and to maintain the safety and to maintain the efficacy of the products in the formulations. So, qualities need to be maintained, safety and the efficacy of products are very, very important. They have to prove the quality, safety, efficacy of the medicine. So, then only we will get the approval for the products. Now, try to understand, every country has its own regulatory authority which is responsible to enforce the rules and the regulations, issues the guidelines to regulate or control the drug development process licensing, registration, manufacturing, marketing, labeling. So, all this can be controlled by one body, that is a regulatory body. They will take care of all these based on the law and the enforcement. So, rules, regulations, codes are very important that will help us to control the system. Now, try to understand, as I discussed quality, safety, efficacy, why this is important for medicines and the medical devices. Now, if you go and see the definition of the drugs, it says in this way, drugs are definitely therapeutic, as well as the each drug is considered as in the toxic. If you give it in a limited dose, it will show the therapeutic response, and if you give below the therapeutic dose, it will not show any response, and if it give the higher than that, it will induces the toxicity. And for that, we need to understand what are the therapeutic index levels of the drugs, and I want to convey that the drugs are toxic in nature, which are not safe if you do not control in a formulations, or if you do not control the dose in a medicines. So, for that, to avoid the toxicity and safety issues, and also to maintain the quality, regulatory bodies required. Now, pharmaceutical industry is one of the highly regulated industry. Now, you can compare with other industries, other regulatory bodies. This is one of the highly regulated industry, right. So, from the selection of raw material, processing, even the facility, recruiting of manpower, even the characterization, evaluation, finished product, after launching, and if once it reaches to the market, each stage that need to be evaluated, and that should provide till the use, quality, safety, efficacies need to be maintained. So, that is why we are taking the medicines directly, and which will enter into the blood, that will show unwanted side effect as well as toxicity. So, that is why this area or this field, this pharmaceutical platform is highly regulated industry with many rules and regulations. You need to prove safety, efficacy and quality of your medicine at each stage, right. Once it is done, then it will be approved for the marketing by the government to protect the health and well-being of the publics. Now, we trust the doctors, and doctors trust the industries or pharmaceutical companies. Now, these industries or the manufacturing, even any medicine come out from the company, that need to be controlled or regulated by the government. So, now here are the few regulatory bodies. As we discussed, every country has their own regulatory body. Now, you have to remember these are very important regulatory bodies, which are already I have highlighted. Here you can see the country and the name of the regulatory authority. We are learning the basics of the regulatory considerations for any pharmaceutical industry. Further, we discuss on the novel drug delivery system. So, US has Food and Drug Administration. Now, the difference is that with in India and other countries, so they have the regulatory even for the food. Whereas it comes to the India, we have the regulations in drugs, medical devices, cosmetics and then biological substances. That food is not included with the CDSCO, and you have to remember these full names of these regulatory bodies. Now, in India, our regulatory body is CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, that is CDSCO, right. When it comes to the UK, it is a MHRA, Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulation Agency, and Australia is TGA, and Canada is Health Canada, European Medicine Agency, and Singapore, China, and the Germany and Japan. And Japan also is very, very important because these three are the top regulatory countries in the world, right? US, Europe, and the Japan. And again, we know that pharma regulation is one of the most stringent, in that the highly strict, highly stringent, and required more enough data with the US FDA. So, among these, US FDA comes in the topmost in the rules and regulations and the practice of GMP guidelines and GCP guidelines and GA and other type of the guidelines in the US. So, these are the some of the regulatory authorities over the world. Now, we can see in Indian perspective, DCGI, Drug Control General of India, is the head for the Central Drug Standard Control Organization that will control the drug, device, cosmetics, and biologicals, also some other type of novel products in India. So, DNC Act and rules will help us for the regulations in India. And now we can see the approval process in India, how it happens. So, any company, they come up with the IND applicant, that is nothing but investigational new drug application, we will see in upcoming slides. So, that will be submitted enough data in the form, and that need to be submitted to CDSCO headquarters. They will examine that new drug in the new drug division about their properties and preclinical studies, and yes, they will, after performing of all the clinical trials, they will provide in this, and that can be reviewed by the committee. They may come for the physical inspection during the clinical studies, even the site, and they will also ask so many queries. And if any fault, any problem is there, any problem, they will again send it to the applicant, that further can be rectified, and if everything is okay, if they satisfy with your outcome, if it is a product is safe, your new NCE, new chemical entity is safe, then that can be used for the treatment for the human being. That should show quality information, safety, and the efficacy information in the human beings. Now, these are the few functions of CDSCO, because we need to know the regulatory considerations in India as well. Now, CDSCO has an authority to give the approval of such new drugs. Also, they will give the permission for the clinical trials. They also give the permission for the clinical trials. And yes, CDSCO will also give the permission for the import registration as well as licensing. And yes, see here approval for the blood banks, large volume parenterals, vaccines, and rDNA and some other molecules, as well as including medical devices. And they have authority to amend to DSC Act and rules, banning of some drugs and cosmetic if you see any some problems in the treatment or some misbranded drugs can be removed from the market. So, they will also grant the test license, personal license, no objection certificate for the exports, and also testing of the new drugs can also possible. And some of the state and central authorities also there are the drug inspector. So, they will also overlook the quality of the products. Now, in the US, all food, drugs and cosmetics and medical devices for both humans and animals are regulated by the FDA. So, whereas India, we do not deal with the foods. It is scientifically based law enforcement agency whose mission to safeguard the public health and to ensure honesty and fairness between consumer and health regulated industries involved in pharmaceuticals and device and biologics. And it license, inspects manufacturing facility, tests products, evaluates the claims, prescribing drug advertising, monitors research, creates a regulation and guidelines and standard and policies can be performed by the USFDA. So, similarly same activities we do for in India, but except we will not control the food in India. Now, we can, this is very important if you want to know on the regulatory. So, you should know the drug discovery development process. We know that here this stage, like during the drug discovery, after identification of disease and target identification, we try to identify the lead molecules and we do the lead optimization and we do some in vitro studies. So, from that you will get from lakhs of molecules only few of the molecules will pass in the in vitro studies after doing high throughput screening. Few of molecule will respond to the activity and some of them fail in the activity, and yes, still you will face lot of problem in the solubility, permeability and other PK, PD problems in the molecules. Now, this is about drug discovery. Once it is satisfied, out of this 10,000 only 250 molecules will reach for the preclinical. Here we try to understand the safety, also efficacy and the toxicity on the animals. So, out of this 250, few compounds will reach into the clinical trials. Now, this stage is very important. INDA. This is a submission which is required if you want to test any investigations on human beings of any new drugs, new products. So, you have to come up with the INDA application, right. So, once you got permission, you can perform phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 studies at different levels. After approval from 1 by 1 and reviewing, they will give the permission from phase 1 to phase 2, phase 2 to phase 3, right. So, here in phase 1 we can use, this is not correct. So, 2200 is the healthy subjects, or you can say healthy human beings, not patients, and here is the 100 to 500 is the patients, and here is the, it may go from 1000 to 5000. We have some text that we will read in upcoming slides. And second, once it is done, INDA to test the animals. Now, NDA is for marketing. This submission is for the marketing. After completion of preclinical and complete clinical trials, this data we need to submit to the FDA. They will review, it will take 2 to 3 years, and after that, if the product is qualitative, safe and effective for the treatment, if it is a new molecule and it is feasible for the approval, then out of this one molecule enter into the market. And after that we have phase 4 also. Now, you can see very extensive systematic study, there we try to understand what are the therapeutic outcomes of the molecule. So, yes, now you can see in each stage what I want to convey, that each stage regulatory process will involve, like you can see here. Now, again same you can understand with the same pictorial representation with the detailed information. Drug discovery and lead molecule, now you do the preclinical, it will take 4 years, and you do the animal study, and till that time you come up with the synthesis, scale up testing, formulation, safety in the animal study. That data need to be provided IND, but all these studies should be performed in the GLP labs and also in the practice of GMP, good manufacturing practice, right, good laboratory practice. When you are doing clinical trials, you have to use GCP, that is good clinical practice. Now, here we will file and they will check it and they may send for the revision. If it is okay, they will give the approval. From here you can start phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. As we discussed already, phase 1 for on the healthy human beings, phase 2 on the patient, high number, and again multidisciplinary. Once it is done, it may also take 6 years, almost 10 years is completed, sometime it may go 15 years, depends on the type of disease and the type of formulation. Now again we come here also one more regulatory body. Yes, you can see here two ways. These are during drug discovery at two stages you need a approval. After submission, any disapproval, that will go for revision, and again if they are confident and they will suggest for the any conditional approval, they will say that we have to come up with the suggestions, and again you can take the FDA approval. Like after that you can go for marketing, and here is the phase 4, that is after marketing also you need to understand the safety and the adverse effects on the large population. Phase 4 is nothing but phase 4 is PMS, post marketing surveillance. So nothing but after marketing we need to take some surveys, we need to understand the safety as well as adverse reactions of the drug molecule. We can also identify the any drug-drug interactions from the patients, and also food drug interactions or any other therapeutic benefits can be noted down. So these can be collected from the patients as well as the investigators or from the doctors. So now here is the steps which we are discussing, like the first one is investigational new drug application in human beings, clinical phases where all activity is used to gather significant evidence, that is safety efficacy data of the human beings. 1 in 5 compounds are tested. If they show the safety and efficacy, that will reach to the market. Now here what you need to report, you have to report the results of preclinical testing and describe how drug is made, nothing but you have to write about your molecule CMC, nothing but chemistry, manufacturing and controls of the information need to be made in the file that need to be submitted. If FDA does not disapprove within 30 days of IND application, that means you can start with the clinical trials, but they will come up within a short time, they will review, maybe they will suggest some changes in the your work plan. So based on that we will get the approval for the clinical trials. Once it is done, you can start with the clinical trials. Again phase 1 speaks about the safety and tolerance study, that means we do small number on the healthy voluntaries that may require one year or less, just to understand the toxicity, metabolism and pharmacological actions. If possible, any early evidence in the effectiveness. The results of phase 1 is used to develop the next step. Once it is done, again we go to the regulatory body, right, and we will give it, submit our document, they will review, and they may, based on the safety, they will again give the permission to conduct the clinical trials on patients. Now you can see the several hundred subjects who are afflicted with the disease or condition being studied. If you are working for diabetics, take diabetic people and do the treatment and check the safety and efficacy. That can be initial efficacy can be find out, and further that can be analyze the safety in the human beings. So once phase 2 is done, again you can take the data and what is the difference between phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 3 study we perform in the large number of people and consisting of several thousand patients, numerous study center, nothing but multidisciplinary or multi-center study with a large number of investigators who conduct long-term trials over several months to year. And what we need to consider, men, women and people of different ages and ethnic group, different locations also possible, because of the traditions also sometimes will impact the quality and safety efficacy of the product. So that need to be performed and we need to work with the different people. Once phase 3 is done, all this data need to be compiled, and then that sponsor, those who are investing money, those who are conducting the studies, that information need to be submitted to the FDA for marketing. So that comes in the as an NDA format. So NDA is for the marketing authorization, INDA for the to conduct the clinical trials in human beings. So, that is the difference. So, that already we discussed, NDA is a formal request to the US FDA or similar regulatory bodies in the world, new pharmaceutical products for sale and marketing. So, it may require phase 1 to phase 3 data about the drug ingredients, manufacturing process, quality controls, all this data need to be submitted. Then FDA people see your physical samples, they will send it to their research labs, and after performing of study of the quality, safety, efficacy, then they will send it for the approval to their bodies and their agencies. They will visit the facilities as well as see the quality, and also they may visit even the clinical trials also, and taking of all the suggestions from the patients, and then they will give the product for the approval. They also may reject if there are any problems in the quality and safety efficacy. And the another aspect is biological license application. So, here is a comprehensive submission to the FDA requesting approval to distribute biological products. In our previous week, we discussed on the siRNA, and as well as if you see the nucleic acid molecules, even protein peptides and other biosimilars, right. For that you have to come up with the biological license application, because as we know the drugs are small molecules, and whereas proteins and peptides are the macromolecules, and their safety, efficacy, and their even the quality need to be maintained very high, because sterility also is required. So, lot of changes are there when you compare with the drugs and the biologicals. So, such molecules are again processed, treated, even manufactured. Approval process also completely different by using of the BLA application, biologics license applications. Biologics derived from the living organisms encompass a range of products including vaccines, blood components, allergen components, cellular genetic materials. So, these need to be submitted with BLA, and it take extensive research and clinical studies have been completed under the, again it comes in the IND, and again investigational device exemptions that we do in case of when you are using in a medical devices. So, these studies are very important for when you are going for the as in a BLA application. So, now here we will see one more last point in this session, that is abbreviated new drug application. Of course, this is not important for the novel drug delivery system. These are just for understanding. ANDA is for the totally for the generic products. Now, you can see here not for the novel drug delivery systems. When patent is expired, any company is ready for the generic product, that should be equivalent, therapeutically equivalent as well as pharmaceutically equivalent. Nothing but your dose need to be same, and also your formulation need to be same, even the route of administration need to be same. So, bioequivalent as well as pharmaceutical equivalent, then such molecules can be given for the approval. So, once the patent is expired, so 20 years is the patent lifetime, and once it is expired, that can be any company can be market in the same country and other countries also. And ANDA allows for the generic drug manufacturing to reference to the safety efficacy data for existing brand name drugs, that is the RLD, reference listed drug, or you can say innovator drug, that should be equivalent. And for approval of generic drug, US FDA requires scientific evidence that generic drug is interchangeable with or therapeutical. Of course, you no need to do extensive clinical trials which the innovator company or reference listed drug have done, no need to do. By simple physicochemical as well as bioequivalent studies are enough to get the generic drug. So, that ANDA is for the generic drug, not for novel drug delivery systems. So, with this we will stop today's session. So far we discussed what are the regulatory aspects, what are the regulatory bodies, how they are helped on behalf of the public and their safety efficacy, and the main purpose to regulate or to control the import, export, conducting of clinical trials, labeling of the drugs, cosmetics, medical devices and the biological products. With this, we will stop it here, and in upcoming classes, in our next class, we discuss on few of the aspects on regulatory considerations. Thank you so much.